How has the political identity of Asian Americans evolved over the past few decades?
Well, the Asian American group, basically, in the past, they kind of see themselves as an outsider. It's not they don't involve in American politics, but in recent decades, it's a very clear trend, especially in terms of voter turnout. You can see the Asian American voter turnout increase from 20%, 30% to 2020, we see a record high of 59%, which means Asian American now they see themselves as part of the American society, and they feel like the American politics will strongly influence or significantly impact their daily life. And that's why Asian American, we can see the Asian American voters care about Asian American politics more. But still, there's a missing part, which is the total number of Asian Americans still quite limited. According to the national census, now Asian American it's about 15 million population. Given the smaller size of population, Asian American also very pragmatic. They know their vote, if they don't vote strategically, their vote may not be very influential. So you can see Asian American now they try to work with different minority groups, including Latino American, African American. So they kind of become a bridge to all the minority group. So all in all, if you like to talk about how Asian American get involved in American politics, or how Asian American become part of the American society, we can see a very clear evidence. Asian American now they see they're part of the society. They see they need to their voice need to be heard, which is a very good sign. And I do believe Asian American will partake in politics more.
What role do Asian Americans play in coalition building within broader minority or political movements?
Asian American has a very unique rules in terms of being the part of the coalition or be the bridge of the coalition among all the minority group. Why? Because Asian American, if you look at the history and Asian culture, they tend to be more moderate. When they talk to people, when they have different opinions, they won't try to fight against each other. They try to collaborate. They try to compromise. So that's why Asian American can be a very important bridge across different minority groups, especially when there's a controversial issue. Recently, we can see minority groups care about immigration issue, healthcare issue, or the so-called racial discrimination issue. Asian American feel the same way, but at the same time, Asian American try to work with other minority group and try to find a consensus. And we can see all of the minority group need to play more important role. They like to have their voice being heard in Washington D.C. Asian American can play kind of glue for this minority coalition. We don't know if that will work out with other community or other group play this role. But what we learned from the past, Asian American can definitely play this kind of role properly. So we can imagine in the next few years, especially when we have this polarized American politics, Asian American, if play wisely or strategically, I think Asian American can be very critical, in terms of forming a coalition. But again, the obstacles still there, the limitations still there. Whether the Asian American really care about politics, well, we will see it. If we see a very positive and significant increase in terms of voter turnout, maybe that kind of situation reflect Asian American care about politics more. But if we don't see that kind of trend, that kind of change, maybe Asian Americans should work harder on learning about politics.
Okay.
What are the most significant barriers to political participation and representation faced by Asian Americans?
The most significant barrier or obstacle for Asian American, I think we can see like a different front. Asian American encounter different kind of obstacle. First, language barrier. That's very obvious. Language barrier kind of associated with a culture shock, culture barrier. Why? Even Asian American who moved to the U.S. for quite some time, still most of Asian American, if they live in the urban area, they tend to stay with their own community. They tend to stay with the Asian American community. They still live a very Asian style of life, which means they, still strongly connected to each other. So if that specific community do not have a consensus, which means willing to partake in politics, maybe the entire group will have a very low turnout or very low participation rate because my neighbor, my friend, don't participate in politics. On the other hand, if the situation different, for instance, my friend, all the Asian American in specific group, they care about politics, the situation may be different. So language barrier, culture barrier, that's first. Second of all, Asian American, we all know, the total population of Asian Americans is still very limited. According to the national census back in 2020, Asian American, the total number for Asian American is 15 million, which is increasing, but still is not significantly important in terms of the percentage of the total population in the U.S. If I remember correctly, 15 million only contribute to 7.2% of total population of America, which means in any given election, now if we like to have American like mainstream politicians really care about Asian American, only if the 7% Asian American vote strategically or behave unitedly. Otherwise, Asian American, because of the total number, the influence will be very limited. So that's another obstacle. The third obstacle is the generational difference, the generational gap. For senior level, a senior Asian American, they are first generation of immigrant. They don't care about politics, maybe. Well, they care about how to make fortune, how to make a living, how to provide family. So economic interest is the only thing, the only goal for the family. And they may also educate their second generation or third generation. They told their kids, pay attention to their job, get a better education, and less likely to encourage their kids to join politics or pay attention to politics. So that will be another obstacle. If the generational understanding about politics remain, the way of educated the second generation or third generation continue, then we won't see a lot of Asian American really join politics or try to be a politician, and that will be another important obstacle. So all in all, I think Asian American, there's a future, there's a way to make Asian American voice to be heard, but there's a lot of work to do.
How can Asian Americans increase their representation in elected offices and leadership positions?
Well, Asian Americans need to pay attention to news, need to need to educate their kids, ask everyone to join politics, participate in political participation, not only voting, but also protest or signing up for a petition, or maybe just join the political campaign and be the campaign manager or a campaign helper. Start from there, the volunteer. If Asian American willing to start picking up those kind of job, they may start thinking politics is our daily life. Politics is everywhere. So only after majority of Asian American realize why politics matter, why they have to have their voice being heard, we can see more Asian American representation. Otherwise, like I said, if no one cares, if Asian Americans still have a very low participation rate in terms of all kinds of different political participation activities, then we might not see a lot of difference. But at least look at the bright side. We've already see the turnout rate goes up. We've already see the Asian American political candidate getting more and more. So there's still the future is still bright. But whether Asian American can overcome those obstacles, I think we can have some hope.